Yes.
Hi. Following on from that gentleman, I've got concerns, or I'd like to voice concerns about how you define poor quality or redundant. I've got a similar experience about a playground which is being claimed to be disused, it's a similar situation. It's a bunch of vocal neighbours that have got together and demonstrated that actually it is used. But I'd be concerned about how you allow something to be classed as disused and therefore can fall within this, and what restrictions you could put in to prevent that sort of thing happening.
Okay, thank you.
Just on the particular point you raised, the core strategy will protect all open space, whatever the condition is, because we've got such a shortage to meet future demands that the solution isn't to do away with poor quality open space, it's rather to improve that open space. So the reason that it might be a health and safety hazard even, so that it's disused, isn't a reason for actually maybe building something else on it. The core strategy will protect open space, but I take your point about how do you define poor quality or disused. It's an interesting question.
Thank you.
And sorry, and also I think it's something that is kind of out of our control in a way, because it's down to the local service providers and their asset management plans to guide us basically and tell us whether it is poor quality, redundant, not used.
Could you then put in some sort of compulsion for consultation, so that in the planning process you could definitely at least open it up to the public and say, this has been classed as disused. If that's okay, then no one turns up. If actually it is used, then at least there's a process for everyone who plays football there to turn up and say, we use it.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, my comment is really, I can't see it anywhere else on the question, so I think here's probably the best place to put it. I think generally the definition says local services, and I think there's a strong case for that unless the facilities are redundant or poor quality, and obviously the test is for that to be demonstrated that better facilities are being provided. I think a well-known example is the Amberley Road briefs, where you're basically, from my understanding, I'm not involved with it, you're taking 3 facilities which aren't fit for purpose or adequate, and you're providing hopefully a much, much better facility on one site. But obviously there's commercial realities, and you've got those other 2 sites being sold off to fund that nice facility. But overall, you'd hope that the improvement in that community facility is better. I think the key definition is, because I touched on it, is not set out. Local service, I think, is very important to sort of protect, and the cases must be made. But I mean, your UDP at the moment in paragraph 6.1 already says, some facilities serve local needs, while others, like universities and hospitals, are important beyond Westminster. And I think, for example, hospitals which, whether you can change the use and move out of a borough or within a borough, for example, Middlesex University, Middlesex Hospital site, it's right on the boundary, but quite frankly, it moved out of the borough. So this policy is very restrictive for it. And I know that there was the need for a lot of consultation, a brief and everything, but the reality is that they've got a much nicer hospital up the road, in a better located and a more accessible location, and they're providing a better facility which serves the local people. Whether there's a map on whether it's Camden or Westminster doesn't really matter, because it's serving the same people. So I think it's just really important to recognise and specifically state in the policy that local needs, fine, protect those, and they should be centred to Westminster. But things like major health, hospital, major university providers should be allowed as part of their property strategy to move around with a bit more flexibility.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. I'd like to agree with almost everything that was just previously said. I think the existing policy in the UDP is almost too preoccupied with the quantum of community space, and it doesn't consider adequately that community space works for a variety of reasons. The example of Amberley and Ebury are are almost ideal in that if you ask the Adult Education Service whether they consider themselves to have great facilities, because the UDP defines great facilities as a huge quantum of floor space, they would say no, because it's not fit for purpose, it's very expensive to maintain, it's very expensive to run, it's terribly unsustainable, it's possibly not in the right location. So I think the policy has to be a lot smarter in terms of, the main question should be, is the strategy better serving the needs of residents of Westminster? And if the answer is unequivocally yes, but it results in a net loss of floor space, then quite frankly, there shouldn't be an issue there, because the aim should be to better serve the population, and because it may result in a net loss of floor space is irrelevant. And it has to be remembered that a lot of these service providers, they are cash poor, but they're land rich, and if you don't allow them to manage their estate because you're protecting sites, whatever, for community use, then they just can't operate, because they're not going to get the money that they need to invest in new services and improved accommodation and to upgrade their estates. So it's very important that you bear that in mind.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Hi, this particular example has actually just brought something to mind with the on the Moxon Street car park developments, and as you say, it was a kind of a pooling of various different sites that came together in that area, but feedback from residents was actually how the community facilities that were coming in through that planning development didn't necessarily serve the direct community. It was serving a much broader community, and that they felt that they'd lost out on the opportunity for their own community facilities through that. Certainly, I'm representing children's services, and there's a need for childcare in the area, and there's all of us competing against this, Section 106 and what it can represent for us. But when you do have that kind of selling off of different sites, pooling them in one particular area, how does that actually meet the direct needs of that community versus the broader community that are coming in?
Thank you. No other comments against question number 3, and I think we could take that as question number 4 as well. If anybody had any further comments on question number 4, that relates to the existing policy approach. Certainly, the councillor raised the point about these smaller GP surgeries, but
sorry, one thing I do actually have to mention on this with protecting the smaller community facilities, again, it relates to childcare, but where currently we actually have premises that are awarded through the Section 106, there aren't actually any controls from that point forward as to what childcare facility will be in that space, and consequently it can mean that you've got landlords that actually charge commercial rents for those properties. Again, if you've got large residential developments with social affordable housing in that area, and then you're charging a commercial rent of say 60,000, that's a huge outgoing for a childcare provider. What that can then mean is that they're not sustainable, they close, and it gets drawn back into housing. Also, it meets the needs of those that are perhaps in the luxury apartments, but not the needs of those that are in community or in the affordable and social housing. So it's about not just thinking about premises, but actually what controls after that fact in terms of rates, rents, and also perhaps actually looking at financial contributions to the existing community facilities that are in the area. Thanks.
Okay, thank